Okay, so you ever get that feeling like some places just, I don't know, they kind of give you the chills. Like you walk into a building and you can just tell something's happened there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can just feel the history, right? Like every whisper, every footstep, it's all soaked into the walls.
Exactly. And today we're diving into one of those places. We're talking about room 615 at this historic hotel in DC. And let me tell you, this place has stories.
Oh, I bet it does. A historic hotel in DC, there's got to be some secrets hidden in those hallways.
Right. So we've got these excerpts from this piece. It's called The Haunting of Room 615, Washington's Forgotten Terror. And, well, let's just say it's got all the makings of a classic ghost story. But what I really want to get into is what makes this particular room, this room 615, so, I don't know, infamous. What do you think? Is there something to this whole idea of a place being, like, destined to be haunted?
That's a good question. It's like, why do certain places become these magnets for these creepy stories? It's definitely not random. There's always something deeper going on.
Totally. So this story, it starts back in the 1940s with this young woman, Emily Winters. And, you know, you've heard a million ghost stories that start with like a dark and stormy night.
Oh yeah, the classic setup.
But this one, it's different. We're talking World War II, the hotel is packed, there's this whole buzz of activity, so already it's got a different feel. But anyway, Emily checks in, and right off the bat, the staff, they notice something's off about her.
Off how? Like, what are we talking about?
They describe her as distant, really withdrawn, almost like she's not all there, you know?
So right from the beginning, there's that sense of unease, that feeling that something's not quite right. That's often how these stories start, isn't it? This kind of crack in the everyday reality.
It's like that feeling in a movie, right? When you know something bad's about to happen, but you don't know what.
Exactly. It's the anticipation, that buildup of tension.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. So the bellboy, the guy who takes her luggage up to room 615, he says the air in there, it was heavy, like thick and suffocating almost.
Ooh, okay, now that's creepy.
Right. And get this, he even said that Emily's shadow, it distorted as she walked into the room.
Whoa, hold on. Like, her shadow actually changed shape.
That's what he said. Now, maybe he was just spooked, right? I mean, it's wartime, she's acting strangely, maybe his imagination was working overtime. Or maybe, just maybe, there was already something else in that room with them. What do you make of that? Those little details, those sensory things, do you buy it, or do you think it's all just, you know, in our heads?
You know, it's really fascinating because there's actually a psychological phenomenon called the ideomotor effect, where basically if you anticipate something strongly enough, especially in an environment where there's this heightened sense of suggestion, it can actually influence how you perceive things.
So you're saying, like, the bellboy, he goes up to this room, he's probably heard the whispers about it being off, so he's already expecting something weird to happen.
Right. His mind is already primed to interpret anything unusual as something more sinister. Doesn't mean he's making it up, but his brain is, I guess you could say, adding its own soundtrack to the experience.
See, that's what I love about this, right? We could just take the ghost story at face value, but digging into the psychology of it all, that's where it gets really interesting.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the why behind the chills, right?
Exactly. But unfortunately, with Emily's story, things do take a pretty dark turn. So Emily's found dead in her room. And to make matters worse, they find this note near her body. It just said, "I am not finished with her."
Oh, wow. Talk about chilling. That just sends shivers down your spine. It's like straight out of a horror movie.
Right. It's like, hello, foreshadowing.
Hey.
So, of course, the hotel, they try to keep it all quiet. Because who wants their hotel known as, you know, the Death Note Hotel?
Yeah, bad for business.
Right. But you know how it is, these things, they have a way of getting out. And sure enough, a few years later, it's the 1950s now, another tragedy in room 615. This time, it's a traveling salesman. And get this, same as Emily, found dead in the room. No explanation.
Whoa, hold on. So we've got two deaths, same room, both unexplained. That's not a coincidence anymore.
Exactly. At this point, you'd think they'd just, I don't know, seal the room up, brick it over, something.
You'd think, like maybe turn it into a closet, anything but another guest room.
Right. But they didn't. Well, not at first anyway. They did finally take room 615 off the bookings list. But here's the thing. It didn't really matter. It's like whatever was going on in that room, it didn't get the memo.
What do you mean, like it got worse?
Oh, yeah. Staff started reporting all sorts of weird stuff. Footsteps in the hallway, voices, cold spots, you name it.
So it's like, even though the room was empty, there was still something there. That's really creepy. It's like that saying, nature abhors a vacuum. Maybe whatever energy was drawn to that room just became more concentrated once it was sealed off.
That's a thought, isn't it? Like, it's got free reign now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it had the run of the place. But on that note, remember we were talking about residual energy before? It's a theory that certain places, especially where something really intense went down, can hold on to, like an echo of that event.
Okay, I'm with you. So you're saying it's not like a ghost exactly, but more like an imprint, like a recording of what happened.
Sort of, yeah. It's like, imagine a videotape, but instead of just images and sound, it also recorded the emotions, the energy of that moment.
Yeah.
And that those traces, even if you wipe the tape clean, they might still be there, somehow embedded in it.
So like a psychic residue.
Exactly. Some people believe that's what might be happening in places like this. That it's not so much a conscious entity, but this replaying of past events imprinted on the very fabric of the place.
Wow. Okay, that is both fascinating and totally creepy. And I guess if that's true, then sealing off the room wouldn't really do much, would it? If anything, it would just contain it, make it stronger.
Exactly. And when you add to that the fact that people already knew about the room's reputation, it's no wonder things started to escalate.
Right. Like if I went to a hotel and knew it had a haunted room, I'd probably hear every pipe creak and floorboard groan, you know?
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to look for patterns, especially when we're scared or uncertain. So if you're already expecting something creepy to happen, you're much more likely to interpret any little thing as proof, even if it's just the wind or an old building settling.
It's like that saying, we see what we want to see, or in this case, hear what we want to hear.
Exactly. And in a place like this hotel, with its already spooky reputation, it's no surprise that people's imaginations might run a little wild. But it wasn't just the staff who were experiencing these weird things. Guests in nearby rooms started reporting strange goings-on too.
Like what? Give me the good stuff.
We're talking muffled crying late at night, cold spots, and the most common one, the fleeting glimpse of a woman in a white nightgown, always with her back turned, just out of sight.
Okay, yeah, that's classic ghost story material right there. But, you know, maybe it was just a case of mistaken identity, a guest in the wrong room, a reflection in a mirror.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But when you combine that with everything else, the history, the previous deaths, the staff reports, it all adds up to something, well, unsettling, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And the hotel, well, they decided it was time to bring in the big guns. So we're back, and you know, when we left off, this hotel was undergoing a major renovation. New management, new look. You'd think that would kind of, I don't know, reset things?
You'd hope, right? Like out with the old, in with the new, maybe get rid of some of that, shall we say, unwanted energy in the process?
Exactly. But room 615, well, it had other plans. Because it turns out renovations and hauntings, they don't really mix.
Oh, this is where it gets good. What happened?
Well, first it was little things. Tools going missing. Like construction workers, they're used to misplacing a hammer or two.
Right? It's a construction site. Things happen.
Right. But this was different. The tools would vanish and then reappear in a totally different part of the hotel. Like someone or something was moving them on purpose.
Okay, that's not just your average misplaced hammer. That's starting to sound like, you know, poltergeist territory, that more active physical kind of energy.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the tools. Some of the workers even reported seeing a woman's reflection in the windows of room 615. But like, no one was there. It was broad daylight.
Ooh, a reflection. That's a classic. Like those stories about antique mirrors.
Right.
Holding on to images of the past.
Yeah.
Except this was a window. Makes you wonder what those windows had seen over the years, right? What got imprinted on them.
Right. And then things took an even stranger turn. The contractor, the main guy in charge of the renovation, he just disappeared.
Disappeared. Like, gone.
Gone. Vanished. They searched the entire hotel, top to bottom, no sign of him. The police, everyone, they were baffled.
That's unsettling, especially with everything else going on. Like, whatever was happening in that room, it was starting to, I don't know, reach out.
It's like it was escalating, right? And then they found his tool belt.
Oh, no. Don't tell me.
Right in the middle of room 615. Empty.
So not only is this guy missing, but it's like whatever took him left his tools behind as a calling card.
That's what it felt like, yeah. And get this, the workers who found the tool belt, they said the air around it, it was freezing cold, and it was the middle of summer.
A cold spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one of those classic science and paranormal reports.
Yeah.
That sudden drop in temperature.
Yeah.
Some people think it's the energy of whatever might be present, like it's drawing energy from the environment, or, you know, maybe it's a draft.
Right. So after all this, the renovation, the missing contractor, the whole 9 yards, what happens to room 615? Well, today it's still there, but it's sealed off. permanently off limits, like a big, spooky do not disturb sign.
So even with all the modern renovations, all the attempts to change it, room 615 still holds on to its secrets.
It's like whatever happened there, it left a mark. And the thing is, people still report strange experiences near that room. Guests in nearby rooms, they hear noises, feel cold spots. The stories haven't stopped.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about certain places that seem to hold on to these energies, these events? Is it something about the location itself? Or is it us, our beliefs, our stories that keep these hauntings alive?
Right. Like, are we just drawn to these spooky stories? Do we create the ghosts ourselves just by believing in them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. Maybe it's a bit of both. The place, the history, our own expectations all swirling together to create something unexplained.
I like that. A mix of everything. It makes you think, doesn't it? About the power of place, the stories we tell, and the things we believe.
It definitely keeps you guessing.
It does. Well, on that note, I think we've earned ourselves a nice, relaxing, non-haunted cup of tea, don't you? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Whether you're a believer or skeptic, I think we can all agree that some places, they just have a story to tell. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and maybe, just maybe, leave the light on.